Alright, time for the final part of the wedding cake. So the top tier is going to be covered in gold sprinkles, and so I wanted to color this gold, so you can see I frosted it, took it off, and frosted it again with that yellowish, goldish color. This is so that way if there are any like holes or gaps, you don't see them. And to make this mess free, I hold my 6-inch over a large bowl and just kind of use my hand, my gloved hand, to scrape sprinkles up the side. I then used a brush to brush off all the excess sprinkles just to make sure nothing fell onto the bottom tier. I didn't film me frosting the bottom tier because it's the exact same technique as I've been using the entire video. Because this is a nod to Beauty and the Beast, they wanted some roses, so I'm using a fondant mold and some yellow fondant to add some yellow roses to the bottom, and I'm going to paint these gold as well. I'm using yellow fondant similarly as I use the yellow frosting. If there happens to be a gap, you won't see it. Also, because these are toward the bottom of the cake, I'm not really able to paint in those tiny little gaps that are on the underside of the rose, and if those were white, they would be very obvious, but because they're yellow, they kind of blend in nicely. To make my paint, I use luster dust with a tiny bit of vodka. I use like literally 2 or 3 drops, mix it together till it's the consistency I want. I wanted this to be fairly thin so that way I didn't lose the detail of the rose. You can make it as thin or as thick as you want. I started out with a fairly thick brush to just go around the fronts of them, and then I switched here to a flat brush so that I could get the tops of them, and then I'm going to switch again to a tiny brush to get that edge just where the rose met the cake. Next, she wanted to add some detail with gold leaf, so I'm adding them to kind of look like leaves just on the bottom of the cake here, and I'm attaching them also with a tiny bit of vodka. If you don't want to use vodka, you can always substitute with another quick drying liquid like lemon extract. A detail I skipped over is that blue mark. That is me marking the front of my cake, so every once in a while I'll stop and make sure that my cake is looking good from this angle, as I'm designated this as what I want the guests to see. And to clean up my board, I just took my paintbrush and vodka and I just ran it around the bottom just to remove any extra frosting and powdered sugar, so that way the board was nice and clean for the wedding. I also added 5 more dowels to the top 2 layers of my 8-inch cake, giving me a fully doweled cake, and then I poked a hole in the middle using a 12-inch dowel to basically line up my top tier. And now that my gold leaf is done, it's time for me to go ahead and stack my cake. My top tier is frozen because I want it to be nice and firm, and then my bottom tier is still refrigerated. I line it up, make sure it's accurate, and then use a hammer to dowel all the way through. It's important to push your dowel all the way through into your cake board to make sure your cake does not go anywhere. My last step is to add a gold ribbon that was requested, and I'm going to use a toothpick at the back to secure it. I leave about a 1/2 inch visible so that way the couple does not serve that toothpick with a cake slice. And with that, the cake is done. So the bottom can feed up to 48, the top can feed up to 15, and for this cake I did charge $285 because she got a $50 discount for booking a tasting through me. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next video.